They act like they're the iron-willed saviours of the nation, the only ones tough enough to speak the hard truths. But the second you push back, the second you ask a question that isn't on their pre-approved cue card, then they just fold and they crumble. You're about to watch Reform's UK chairman, Zia Yusuf, try to play the economics expert, only to get exposed as a one-trick pony before having complete meltdown on live radio. Zia walks into LBC, thinking he's there to dismantle Labour's budget. Start strong, throwing rounds like omnishambles and demanding resignations. He's confident. He's got his talking points. The link to the full clip is down in the description, so do go and check it out. But when the conversation shifts to the NHS, his answer is immigration. When he's pushed on it, his answer is immigration. He drags the conversation kicking and screaming back to his comfort zone. He explicitly claims that the only way to fix the NHS is deporting people. It does make me laugh that he's fully in support of a party that would happily kick out his own parents without a second thought. But then in comes Stephen Flynn of the SNP with a cocky little smirk on his face and brings the one topic that Zia really doesn't want to talk about anymore. It's here he falls back into his pre-prepared scripted answers. But then it gets even worse for him. Sheila Fogarty makes him completely lose his shit. Have a watch.
We need to reduce the demand on the NHS, and the only way we will do that is with a serious border control policy and deporting people who are here illegally.
So your focus after that speech, which was so heavy on the on economics because it's a budget, is to focus almost largely on border control issues.
So you asked me about the NHS and the most powerful thing we could do to resolve the strain on the NHS. We laid out, remember, just last week, we laid out £25 billion in savings.
No, the biggest strain.
£25 billion in savings.
I need to throw a fact in here for you. The biggest strain on the NHS is the growing elderly population in this country and the fact that we live a lot longer. Anything you want to say in response to what you've heard from him so far?
The only thing I didn't hear from him was an explanation about Nathan Gill and the guy, I think it was, who took money from the Russians, I believe it was. I didn't hear him talking about that when it came in, but maybe that's because his leader's embroiled in a racism.
It's funny, someone from the SNP turning up here to talk about corruption. That takes quite a lot of gall. We've already covered that. We've already covered this. I've never met Nathan Gill. The first time I read his name was in the newspaper with regard to this case. It's ancient history.
He was not. It's not ancient history.
For you to try to besmirch the millions of people in this country who support reform and support Nigel shows that you've got no idea.
No, mate, that is why we have gained on you so much in Scotland, and your incompetent reign in Scotland is going to shortly come to an end. You cannot pretend this hasn't happened. A man who was a leader of the Reform Party in Wales is now in jail.
I've already
for working
sorry,
for
he was not leader of the Reform Party.
For working for...
He was not leader of the Reform Party.
What was his position of the Reform Party?
He was the head of Wales for about 43 days when Reform was polling at about 1% many years ago.
So he was the head of the Reform Party in Wales?
All right,
you said head of a Reform Party, it's not the same thing. You know that. You said head of the Reform Party, and that's not the same thing.
Let me bring this back, if I may, to the content of the budget, which, just before you go, Zia Yusuf, still in a related topic. The Chancellor did allude to increasing sanctions on Russia, and she said sarcastically, in humour, but sarcastically, I'm not referring, or I don't refer to the honourable member for Clacton. I mean, she was making a joke about the leader of your party being a Russian asset.
Rachel Reeves has made a habit of cracking jokes while destroying people's lives in this country.
Is he a Russian asset?
She's already driven a farmer. She's already driven a farmer to suicide because of the increase.
Is he a
you
Russian
obviously know
asset?
the answer to that question, and I take exception. I'm sorry. I take exception to you asking me that question. Are you seriously asking me the question if Nigel Farage is a Russian asset?
Yeah,
that is your serious question as a host of an LBC show.
Yeah, I have.
Let me categorically say that not only is that not true, it is deeply offensive, again, to the millions of British people who support reform and support Nigel Farage. And I'm sorry, you know,
but you can't,
we have already answered these questions.
Let me say,
the notion
you cannot dodge questions about Nigel Farage by suggesting that I'm asking the question about people who are interested in voting for him.
I'm asking you whether you are serious about asking that question, because I put it to you, that is not remotely serious.
Nathan Gill was one.
Should we talk about corruption inside your party?
Nathan Gill.
Should we talk about what happened with your former leader and her husband and all of the outrageous?
One at a time, so listeners can hear what you're saying.
I will be very careful. Shall we? You know, you have some gall coming in here talking about corruption, and I'm sorry, there are millions of people in this country who support reform. You have made that. You've asked that question with that intonation, with absolutely no basis for doing it, and I don't think that's remotely fair.
All right. Well, thank you. I've been told you have to go.
Look at the performative outrage. He tries to hide behind the voters trying to claim the question is deeply offensive to the millions of people who support Nigel. This is the tell. This is when they can't answer the accusation. They claim the accusation itself is an insult to you, the voter. It's a shield. He spends the rest of the interview whining about how unfair the question is. For a party built on the brand of being anti-snowflake and anti-woke, the head of policy is remarkably thin-skinned. Doesn't really like the hurty words. He couldn't handle the fact check on the NHS. He couldn't handle the question about his own party's history. And he absolutely fell apart when he was asked about his leader's allegiances. They want to dish it out, but they dissolve the moment they have to take it. So no, they don't really want to talk about Russia anymore. In fact, Richard Tice wants you to thank him for it, which you can see in the video that's on screen now. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to hit that like button, and I'll see you next time.